security, but beyond the challenge of national security, there's also the economic aspect of, what Nigerians are currently going through with the increase in the pump price of petrol, which has a ricochet effect on every other aspect of life, be it food and housing. Yes, housing, that's where we're headed. And in Lagos, it's quite telling what Nigerians, Lagosians are going through where housing is concerned, despite many housing schemes that have been initiated by the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and, of course, prior administrations to this time. And joining us to provide insight into the efficacy of the housing policy in Lagos is no other person than the Commissioner for Housing in Lagos State, Mr. Moruf Akideru Fatai, who's right here in our Lagos studio. Mr. Akideru Fatai, good morning, sir. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
It's a first appearance, right?
Yes.
And we're glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here too.
So it's very important to begin with that regulation that has restricted collection of rent in Lagos to 3 months, and criminalizing also on the side of even the tenants from paying more than that. But it appears as if, regardless of that regulation, the challenge of housing has not been solved. What template is in place under this regulation to ensure compliance?
Well, first of all, let me try to correct the impression. It is still a bill. And you see that many people on social media went ahead of themselves, expressing it as if it is already law. It's before the Lagos State House of Assembly. And it's also an amendment to the rent law. There is a law in place as we speak. But what we've discovered is that that law is not really meeting up with the challenges that we face, especially when we talk about Lagos, a mega city that people are coming into every day. And we are unable to actually put a cap to the numbers of people that will be coming into Lagos, because we are a subnational. And when you have supply very low as against demand, then a lot of issues will come up. And that's why government in its mind feels that we should look into that law. And then when you look at the situation all over the world, especially city, when you compare, Lagos, we don't benchmark ourselves with any other state in Nigeria. We benchmark ourselves against major cities in the world, because that is our vision, to be able to have that's one of our Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu government administration is this team's agenda. They aim in it making Lagos the 21st century economy. So when you benchmark it, you see that there's need for us to have in place a law that will regulate and give confidence to both the landlord or the investors and the tenants in this sector. What we have now do not give that confidence. And then what we also discovered is that people tend to want to build to sell rather than for rent. Again, the financialization of housing, in the sense that speculation comes in, you build, you don't even mind renting it out, you are waiting for the cost to go so that you can sell higher. So the aim of that bill is to, first of all, give confidence, just as I said, to both tenants and investors, landlord, so that people will all understand the operations in terms of, if I build and I give it to tenants, these are things I want them out of my house, these are the procedures. If I rent, if landlord wants to, these are the procedure. So that's the first thing. Then we are also looking at it from, nobody gets salary yearly. we are paid monthly. Then why should we allow culture of paying yearly? And that has put a lot of pressure on people. So the aim also is to ensure that you can pay monthly, quarterly. And if it is a year, that is, you have options. And again, if you are paying quarterly, the maximum time for dispute resolution should not be more than 6 months. And actually, what the intention of the bill is 3 months. And that's why it is going to be by originating someone, in the sense that all the facts will have been stated. No, there's no need for oral. So all the facts, as agreed, will be stated, and the judge will just go ahead and make a decision. So that is also a major part of that bill. And also, we want to ensure that there is sanity, that every agent must register with Lagos State Real Estate Regulative Agency, LASERA, so that we can bring sanity. Then again, the landlord, during agreement, there will be input there that the landlord can come to check his property at an agreed time, maybe once a year or twice a year. Then there's also allowance for virtual hearing. You cannot say because you are not around. When we have Zoom, we can call upon, and it can be resolved via virtual. Then if there is alternative, there is also input there. Already we have alternative dispute resolution in current process. But now, in many of the cases that will be coming under that law, whatever that is done under that process will also be looked into by the judge. If the judge look at it and see that it is so, the intention is just to quickly.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear some of these updates. And I know you spoke about 2 weeks ago that it's at the committee level. That's this new law. So hopefully, at least before the end of the year, it should have been passed.
Actually, it should have been passed by now.
Okay.
And I will tell you why. We cannot afford to get it wrong again.
But it will be passed this year?
By the grace of God, before the end of this administration.
Okay,
but,
I just wanted to get
let me because I need to also put it in perspective. You know, we have stakeholders. We have naives, we have lawyers, we have estate agents, which is the major challenge.
Which is where I'm actually coming to.
Okay.
I want to meet you there. So let's meet right there, because it's a major challenge that we have right now. If you look at the rent, the cost of rent in Lagos, some describe it as diabolical. Some say it is ungodly. The terms used for it, and you know how important housing is. It's at the basic level of Maslow's hierarchy. You need shelter. If there's no shelter, you're literally a homeless person. So are you happy? Let me just say, the Lagos State government, are you happy that rent for a one-bedroom apartment, for example, is 1 million plus? And you know the minimum
depending
wage.
On the area,
depending on the area. By the way, it goes higher. I've seen a certain index that puts some at 10 million naira, of course, for the extra highbrow areas. Minimum wage is 70,000 naira, Honorable Commissioner. Is it to the joy of Lagos State to see rent that high when the reality says otherwise?
Okay. I mentioned that when you have demand supply issue, the supply is so low, while the demand is so high. And when you look at other cities across the world, you will see that inflation governs the cost of rent. But in those other areas, maybe you have 2% inflation, 3% inflation. So when you have like 20, at a particular point, 25% inflation in Nigeria. And that affects cement, that affects iron, and all other things. You will see that people that are building in the private sector that we're encouraging to build, we have to build according, because they are there to make profit. Where I have challenge is those that have built theirs about 20, 30 years ago, and that we also want to increase at the rate of inflation. So one of the intendment of the bill is also to regulate how much you can add to a sitting tenant. The benchmark per year will also be stated.
What is it?
When I say it's a bill, there are a lot of...
What is the government using right now? What is the idea? So let's give an example. Give an example.
Let me give an example. If the inflation is like 20%.
Inflation is 15% now. Let's just say 16% now.
Like 15%. So when you are looking, then you now have to divide it into zones.
Okay.
You have the low income people, you have the high, and you have people who really build for business. Talking of Banana Island, talking about... So I will say, okay, if you want to buy Banana Island, you want to buy Eco Atlantic, at market value. But the government believes that even if you have to build, if you are building a Paja and the rest, then why not look at it from the perspective of, like, if it is 7.5% increase. And that doesn't mean that's come every year. It should be like a benchmark of 3 years.
But that then means that the bill, the legislation, does not solve the problem of value. It only solves the problem of collection per time. That means that it only makes it a little more convenient for the tenant.
No, both sides. Because if you, as an investor, you have a clear view of what the financials will be. If I go into this, these are the things that I'm going. If a tenant, if you have to take if my tenant have to leave, this is stated how the process is clearly stated and everybody understands it. As a tenant, you have it at the back of your mind that if I 1 month, if you pay monthly, then you cannot stay more than 3 months in that place. And again, unlike now that you say, okay, because you have dispute with your landlord, you will not pay. The first thing you have to prove if you are approaching the court is to attach evidence that you are paying your rent is up to date. So that gives confidence to investors too. But the bill is solving a part of the challenge. The other challenge is that we are using that bill to encourage more investment. As we speak, we have trillions of naira seated in the pension fund that they are not really
using.
They are afraid to bring into that sector. So the bill, if it becomes law, we are expecting that it will give investors confidence. Pension fund.
Honorable Commissioner, from what you said, it looks like what you're saying is there's a complexity and there's a dilemma. And what do I mean by that? There's the dilemma of government trying to say it's a capitalist economy,
exactly,
but it has social impacts.
Yes.
So people must be able to afford housing. So are you saying like Lagos, let's say Lagos it doesn't have perhaps a housing problem, it has affordability problem, or is both?
Both. Because when you have demand that far outstrips supply, then speculation comes in. And that's where we are now. And the stakeholders, we are having series of meetings with them, that they also need to work with us more. If you ask them now, they will tell you they are working with us. We had, the Asara bill is over 10 years old, but we had some of them took us to court. But what we were, and eventually we were able to resolve those differences. But you also have lawyers coming into the real estate business, as well as the nice people also saying that lawyer doesn't have business in the, and it's one of those things that
Lagos is literally chasing the average middle income person out of.
No, definitely no. I will tell you why.
Yeah, that's the truth.
We build, and in most cases, our Lagos homes most of the time have the price that we're supposed to sell in the market. Not only that, we are also leading in the sense that, in the sense that when we talk about rent, we are leading that sector. 5%, you put in your 5%. If we are selling at 10 million, you put in 5%, and you pay monthly over 10 years at 6% simple interest rate. The reason why it's not showing is because we cannot build. The way we build, we cannot meet up with demands. But that if the bill comes into law, becomes law, it will also help us to encourage it, because the best way to go about this is through private sector. And to encourage the private sector to want to build for the low-income earners.
That's another part of the conversation that we must explore. Why those who really are in need of housing are not subscribing even to the Lagos housing scheme.
They do.
You would have to give us numbers to support it because of the evident accommodation challenge that we are currently experiencing in Lagos.
It's like we are oversimplifying
one of the commercial
the challenges.
Capitals.
The challenges is huge, but you need to see. Okay, I told you something about people coming into Lagos. The first thing we need is data. But as a subnational, how do we stop people from coming to Lagos? As we speak, people are coming and they don't intend to go back. Either they have the job they are coming here.
And that's exactly
overpopulated.
That's exactly
is Lagos overpopulated.
Well, you can say that, or you may not say that. But
no, it's one thing. Is it overpopulated?
When you have
for
huge population,
housing,
it is an advantage, and it also has disadvantages.
But there was a Lagos registration policy.
We must be able to use data to plan. When the more you try to get data, the more it is the security challenges. So you can see the way.
We're totally out of time.
We want a part two.
Yes,
we want a part two.
Commit to us that you're going to come back. Apparently, we need almost an hour.
I'm surprised that we have
because we have another destination to touch. We must explore, that part of the problem that you say has been solved, and the intervention of the Lagos housing scheme, to what extent it has solved the problem. So we are securing your promise to return to the program
before the month ends.
I'll back
before the month ends.
So Mr. Maruf Akinde Rufatai is the Commissioner for Housing in Lagos State. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.